Hi, I'm Yulia, and this is the News Brief. And today we're going to be talking about the growing tensions between Russia and Azerbaijan and what that means for the world, because you might not realize, but that's a big thing. And of course, we're going to be discussing it together in the comments, so you don't have to suffer alone, and I don't have to suffer alone. So please leave your questions, suggestions, thoughts, constructive criticism, anything you have on your mind in the comments down below, because I read all of it and I really do appreciate all of it. Let's go. On December 26, 2024, Russia downed an airplane that belonged to Azerbaijan with 38 people on board that were killed over Grozny, which is over Chechnya in Russia. Ever since then, and ever since 38 people were killed, Russian and Azerbaijani tensions have started growing exponentially. But things have kind of calmed down, and it was just between their relations that were like not really good. Russia and Azerbaijan have always had pretty good relations because Russia was kind of like a mediator of the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, mostly supporting Azerbaijan because Azerbaijan is financially stable and a place that can offer Russia something, while Armenia just needs help. And we saw what happened with Russia dropping Armenia when the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict escalated. But that's a topic for a different day. Roughly what ended up happening is Russia did not close its airspace during Ukraine drone strikes on Russian military infrastructure, and they still allowed civilian passenger airplanes to come through because I mean, why care about safety, right? So during a drone attack, there was an Azerbaijani plane that Russia shot down instead of drones and then tried to direct to Kazakhstan, probably hoping that it would land somewhere in the Caspian Sea and disappear. But it didn't. So Azerbaijan conducted an investigation and found that Russia did, in fact, shoot down its plane. There was a lot of tension. Russia did try to cover it up. Russia tried to make it sound like they didn't do anything. They were trying to take their fault off of themselves. So, anyways, that was the first big rift. Then, within the last 24 hours, a lot of things have happened. In an arrest gone wrong, I suppose, two Azerbaijani born men with Russian passports died in Russian police custody. Russia says that there was a raid linking 50 people to murders from early 2000s and that these two were part of the people who were linked to these murders, and they're in fact Russian citizens and they were just Azerbaijani born. So that, however, these two Azerbaijani men dying in Russian police custody deepened the rift. Azerbaijan canceled all Russia-related concerts, exhibits, cultural events, you name it. Then, within the last 19 hours, the Azerbaijani police raided Russian state media outlet in Azerbaijan. They raided Sputnik, and their foreign ministry came out and said that Sputnik has continued to operate using illegal money transfers and illegal costs and illegal funding. Which, duh, but I mean, like, they did close their eyes on it for a while. So you might be thinking, Yulia, we're talking about Ukraine here. Why are you talking about Azerbaijan Russia tensions? Well, because stick with it and you'll understand it does play a huge role here. Azerbaijan is very much linked to Turkey, and both in Turkey and Azerbaijan, the sentiment is that they're one nation, two different countries. They have always been very tight. Azerbaijan is kind of like the little brother to Turkey, but not in a sense that Russia deems Ukraine to be, where we don't want it and they're trying to impose their like overlordship on us. It's like a very good partnership relationship between Turkey and Azerbaijan. They love each other. Their relationship is really great. People in Azerbaijan speak Turkish, and people in Turkey usually speak Azeri. These languages are very similar, and the sentiment is that they are in fact brotherly nations. There are a lot of things in history that are quite ugly that Turkey helped Azerbaijan with. There are a lot of things there, but the point is that Azerbaijan and Turkey are two very close nations. Turkey, as you know, controls the Bosphorus Strait. Turkey is also one of the strongest countries in NATO. Turkey has a lot of military pull. Turkey is up there, and they would never let anyone harm Azerbaijan. So, this situation, as of right now, is quite a big deal because if tensions are escalating and tensions are rising, and Russia does something to show Azerbaijan its place, which the political implications or interpretation of the killing of the two Azerbaijani men is kind of Russia trying to show Azerbaijan to its place, because it has always been not subservient to Russia, but sort of like stepped back to Russia. And Russia is likely trying to show Azerbaijan that they're still prevailing over it. But they're not. Not on paper and not in reality, because there's Turkey backing Azerbaijan. And there is zero reasoning for Azerbaijan at this point to have any sort of relationship with Russia. The reason why their relationship was important to Azerbaijan is because the Azerbaijan is kind of like the United Arab Emirates of that part of the world. They have a lot of gas and oil. And in reality, Azerbaijan could actually substitute for Russia's gas and oil supply because they do have enough, and they could become the next gas station of the world. Now, before the sanctions, Russia obviously controlled all of that and wouldn't let Azerbaijan get that spot because they would moderate, they would mediate, they would impose limitations. They were basically holding a tight grip. And also, they had all the contracts, all the infrastructure. Now, the world is looking for a substitute to Russia. And Azerbaijan is growing. Azerbaijan is getting richer and richer by the minute. And Azerbaijan is getting more and more influence by the minute. And now that there are sanctions on Russia, Azerbaijan doesn't need to ask Russia permission to get contracts and to make money off of their gas and oil, of which they have a lot. So that creates a very, very big tension. One, if Russia tries to do something to Azerbaijan, what's going to be the role of Turkey in protecting Azerbaijan? And I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be like NATO. This is not going to be the same as NATO promising to protect Ukraine. Like, Turkey and Azerbaijan have a relationship, and it's an unbreakable bond. It's a sisterly, brotherly, sibling bond. Turkey is going to step in. So that puts that side of the world in a very, very precarious predicament. And I swear I'm not trying to talk like I came out of Mary Poppins, but it just happened. So the next step is Azerbaijan will want to take control over oil and gas supplies to Europe and to other countries to basically fully sub for Russia. And that's something that I was saying from the beginning of the full-scale invasion when the sanctions were just starting to get imposed. But again, it hasn't happened yet. It's not going to happen fast, but Azerbaijan starts getting more and more pull in that area every single day. And the more years pass by, which is 3 years in this case, the richer, the more important, the more solid they start being on the world stage. So this conflict and this rift between Russia and Azerbaijan pulling further and further away from Russia, does signify a potential start of a very big conflict between Russia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Now, Turkey is in NATO. That could influence how Turkey treats Ukraine and how Turkey treats Ukraine's ability to stop Russia, and what Turkey votes on, what Turkey supplies for Ukraine, and how Turkey helps Ukraine. Because if Russia starts beef with Azerbaijan, Turkey is going to be very incentivized to A, show its power, because you can't let someone harm your sibling and not show your power. And boy, does Turkey have a lot of power. And boy, does Erdogan have an ego that he would want to defend. Because, him not doing anything and him not showing Russia its place is really playing against him, his power, and the perception of his power in the world. And again, it really would change the dynamic of how Turkey treats the invasion of Ukraine and how it acts towards it. Erdogan does have a lot of pull, and arguably more pull on Trump and the United States than Germany, France, and other countries combined, simply because, of a very, very lucky geographical location and how many NATO bases, NATO equipment they have, and the Bosphorus Strait. The Bosphorus Strait is the key to a lot of things. So this has a potential, and I'm not saying that this is going to grow into something. They might just leave the question open. They might just continue having a relationship rift. As long as Russia doesn't do something drastic that pisses off Azerbaijan, nothing is really going to happen. But it does create potential for a massive conflict and for a massive shift of the order and of the relationship and of the events surrounding this conflict. Now, I will say that given the language that Russia's foreign ministry and Russian officials are using to talk about the situation, the potential for this conflict is in fact immense, because a lot of Russian journalists were detained. And Russia came out with a statement saying that in connection with the unfriendly actions of Baku and the illegal detention of Russian journalists, And then there is a larger statement to that. But I want to focus your attention on the unfriendly actions. This is what Russia calls their enemies. Unfriendly nations, unfriendly actions, anything they don't like, they consider unfriendly. Obviously, when they break the law, it's okay. But if someone else does it, it's unfriendly to Russia. They have a list of unfriendly to Russia nations, and those nations are the nations that help Ukraine. So there is a larger meaning there is a larger meaning to this, like, seemingly very simple phrase. Unfriendly action and illegal detention of Russian journalists in Azerbaijan. This language being used does signal to me that this problem is not going to be de-escalated and it's not going to be left open. It's going to be escalating in the next couple of days. And as I said before, the relationship between Azerbaijan and Russia was never that of a friendship. It was always that of a convenience because their relationship was based on neutralizing threats together. Like, for instance, the threat or a problem for Azerbaijan was Armenia, and Russia could curb it for Azerbaijan without Azerbaijan having to do a lot. Then, when the problem actually faced itself, Russia kind of didn't help either, but in not helping either, it sort of gave the win to Azerbaijan. And obviously, Azerbaijan benefited from that relationship a lot more than Russia did. Also, that relationship was sort of convenience to Azerbaijan, again, because of the gas and oil tradings. As we all know, Russia does love holding a tight grip on its friends and neighboring countries in order for them to not cross Russia and not thrive. It's like, that type of a relationship that you have in toxic friendships, where when you're doing better than that friend, the friend starts being nasty to you and starts trying to sabotage you. This is what Russia does to its friends. It keeps them in check. In check, in a sense that they can't get better than Russia, they can't get richer than Russia, they can't be more successful than Russia. And normally, because Russia has access to being more successful and has been this established entity in the world, these countries had to succumb. They now don't. And again, the majority of post-Soviet countries are a lot poorer than Russia and need Russia for these connections. Azerbaijan is not. Azerbaijan is getting richer, getting stronger, and getting more important on the world stage day by day. So this is a very interesting geopolitical dynamic in itself. And I just wanted to let you guys know, and I wanted to give you some food for thought, and I wanted to give you some background on why this is a very interesting dynamic that's shaping up and why we need to watch it. Obviously, there is very little information right now because tensions are just rising, but this is the next big thing that I would watch in geopolitics. And that's all I have for you for today. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more episodes like it, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on all of your notifications, send this video to a friend, like it, and of course, leave me your thoughts, suggestions, questions, and did you actually enjoy it? Did you learn something new? Did you know about this dynamic? And if you didn't, give me some questions. I'll answer them in the next one. See you later.